Douglas Balfour Silver is an icon of the international mining industry. His numerous successes are a result of his data-driven mindset, intellectual curiosity, and creative thinking.
Unfortunately, I have a genetic disorder that I got from my mother, which is I'm infinitely curious. So I've switched about 5 or 6 times in different aspects of the mining industry, always because it just sounded more interesting or it was new and I wanted change. Change is good, and I've always benefited from the change.
Over his long and diverse career, he has made significant contributions to Canada by having produced mineral discoveries, resolved disputes, built companies, create wealth, and along the way, enhanced the careers of Canadian mining professionals.
Douglas graduated with majors in zoology and geology before pursuing his master's degree in economic geology at the University of Arizona.
Part of the master's degree, you had to do a thesis, and what they wanted you to do is combine field work with lab work. So I did the thermodynamic modeling of a scheelite deposit in southern Arizona, and I'm still waiting on the movie rights.
As an exploration geologist, he was one of the principal discoverers of the Silver Creek molybdenum deposit in Colorado. This led to his promotion to Anaconda's acquisition team, the first of its kind in the industry.
Unfortunately, it was very deep and it was very hot down there, so it was never developed into a mine, but it was exceptionally high-grade moly deposit. And back then, we didn't have computers. We were drawing isometric diagrams by hand and cross-sections, and we spent 8 months one winter trying to figure out where it was, and we figured it out and discovered it.
His focus then shifted away from geology and fieldwork to valuations. Doug went on to become one of the foremost authorities in mineral economics, mineral appraisals, mining valuations, and mine financing. As a certified mineral appraiser, Doug built a global reputation with his own company, Balfour Holdings. His databases were cutting edge and systematically tracked all commodity acquisitions.
I love the idea that you could take an intangible thing like a mineral deposit and you could figure out how to mine it and process it, and then you could figure out how to price that for purposes of buying or selling the asset. So when the industry had its downturn, I decided to go back and get a formal education in appraisal theory so that I could do a better job.
Doug initiated numerous high-profile mineral asset valuations and corporate transactions, as well as provided expert testimony at U.S. Senate hearings.
And at the time, I don't think there were 5 people in the world that had both a mining background and an appraisal background. And so what happened is my consulting company, Balfour Holdings, became a premier place for people to get appraisals because I had this dual skill set. It was a marvelous way to be very heavily embedded in the acquisition and merger business. And as far as I can tell, my valuations were always correct.
Douglas also supported Canadian mining through the Denver Gold Group, which he conceptualized and founded in 1989 to introduce gold companies to gold institutional investors. The DGG has long been dominated by Canadian-listed companies, and its annual conference continues today as one of the world's principal forums for gold investment discussion.
The majority of public mineral companies are listed on the Canadian stock exchanges. So anybody put on a mining investment conference, the majority of the companies attending will be Canadian. It caught on like wildfire, and now we've been doing it for over 30 years. And it's the foremost gold thing. And it's marvelous to attend because you get to see all the CEOs, get to see the biggest fund managers, and everybody's trying to figure out what gold's going to do and how we're all going to make money on it.
Throughout his career, Douglas has been a tireless supporter of higher education in the minerals sector. Through his personal financial contributions, the mentoring of students, and his support of women in the industry.
It never made sense to me about this glass ceiling that women weren't allowed to penetrate. Women can multitask. Well, one industry that needs multitasking is mining. We're seeing a lot more women CEOs, we're seeing a lot more women on boards, but it's been long overdue. And I did what I could to break that glass.
I've spent the last 20 years navigating the mining industry, and I can assure you that I've crossed paths with very few people like Doug Silver. He appreciates the different challenges women face and has supported many of us with an uncanny level of empathy.
Douglas's biggest contribution to Canada was in the mineral royalty and streaming sector, with the creation of International Royalty Corporation. IRC was the first royalty company to actively chase non-precious metals royalties.
Anytime there's a press release by a junior company, any company, about their option agreements, about their properties, about their royalties, he would file that away. He would put it in his database, and over the years he had a massive collection of all of these royalties throughout North America, probably the world, mainly in Canada, because many of them are in Canada. And with that, he was able to start putting together a portfolio which eventually became IRC.
When Doug Hurst and I and George Young took International Royalty public, we used Faskins as our legal counsel, and they basically served as our legal department, and we did over 80 transactions with them.
He's doing this massive IPO, and it was amazing. He was so involved in the transaction. He spent so much time up in the Toronto office. This was before the virtual days when everyone would be on video conference. He was up here in person, back and forth from Denver, part of the team here at the office working late nights. I think we had boardrooms that were, designated for Doug Silver. I think he felt like he was part of the Faskins team.
2 years later, they sold IRC to Royal Gold, following a bidding war. After taking time off to perfect his fly fishing craftsmanship, Douglas joined Orion Resources with a mandate to build another royalty portfolio. Tithco was ultimately sold to Osisko for $1.1 billion Canadian, making it one of the largest royalty transactions ever.
The thrill you get from making a major mineral discovery it's like nothing else in the world. But what it did was put me on a path of thinking about doing things first. Your life is actually a series of firsts.
Douglas enjoyed a career of firsts, and the Canadian mining industry greatly benefited by his successes.
He was inducted to the U.S. Mining Hall of Fame a number of years ago, and I attended that with a number of my colleagues. And it was at that event that I thought, he needs to be in the Canadian Mining Hall of Fame, not just the U.S. Highway, because he has done so much for Canada. Anybody that knows Doug knows about his incredible sense of humor. Nancy Eastman and I both got emails from Doug, and he said, "I just received this attachment from the Ontario Securities Commission. I think I need some lawyers to represent me." And I was thinking, oh my God, if he's being investigated by the Ontario Securities Commission, this is going to really ruin his chances for the Hall of Fame induction. I opened the attachment, and it's the letter saying, "You have been inducted to the Canadian Mining Hall of Fame." So that was Doug's idea of a good joke.
If he's not preparing, if he's not writing something, he's got a couple of books he's working on, he's got all these ideas for the next project. He has a passion for collecting information. And a lot of his presentations that he makes, he's very thought-provoking, and he looks at things from a different point of view.
A visionary looks forward, right? But that's not how you become a visionary. It's done in reverse. So I don't view myself as a visionary. I just view myself as curious.
Everything Douglas Silver touches turns to gold. His impressive contributions to the advancement of the mining industry in Canada live on. And he continues with philanthropic support for advancing minerals education and careers in mining.